there have been a couple of news updates relating to Sword and Sorcery movie adaptations for film and TV as of late. More specifically, there have been bad news, pretty neutral news, and relatively good news. All out of unqualified good news, sorry. In this video then, I'll give all the currently known details on Amazon reportedly passing on the Conan TV series, Bryan Singer being attached to direct Red Sonja, and finally, Mattel setting up their own movie division to make He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I've previously covered Amazon's Conan series, which would be a new adaptation of the original stories by Robert E. Howard. Insofar as I could tell from showrunner Ryan Condal's comments on his take, as well as his choice for story to base the pilot episode on, I concluded that Conan appeared to be in good hands. However, I was somewhat worried by the recent change in management at Amazon, with the guys who approved of Conan being ousted and replaced by Jennifer Salk before the series had actually entered production. As a general thing, whenever there's a change of management, the previous management's projects that aren't so far along that no further changes can be done may well be either altered or even cancelled outright by the new management. It would appear that those who worried were justified in doing so. On September 25th, with a reference to the Sword and Sorcery episode of the 430 movie podcast, which just so happens to be run by industry professionals, panelist Ashley Edward Miller tweeted that, "I want to point out that Ryan Condal's Conan the Cimmerian series would have been the all-time great Sword and Sorcery adventure. So well imagined, so well written. If we're lucky, it will be revived in some form." Ashley Miller, by the way, is the writer of Thor, X-Men First Class, and the upcoming Red Sonja, which we'll get back to in a bit. In the actual podcast he was referring to, Miller said he had seen Condal's pilot script, the one based on the Frost Giant's daughter. In his opinion, it was excellent, and it was a great shame that Amazon had passed on it, meaning the series won't get made. Ryan Condal himself replied to the tweet with a picture of John Milius, director of the 1982 movie, holding a sword. I guess that must be his version of Henry Cavill's cryptic tweet on by all accounts losing the Superman gig. Oh Ryan, it would have been so much more fun if you had tweeted a picture of yourself holding a Conan comic or Howard book or something like that. Anyway, at the time of making this video, there are no other outlets reporting on this, but I do believe we can take Ashley Miller on his word on this, and it would certainly explain why Condal all of a sudden stopped featuring a Conan banner on his Twitter account a while back. As a huge fan of Robert E. Howard's Conan, as someone who really wants a true-to-the-source material high-end Conan series, such as this was shaping up to be, I am very upset by this news. I also think that if this indeed is accurate, Amazon made a huge mistake in not going forward with this. Marvel has regained the Conan comic book license, so the character is set for a boost in 2019 when they begin publishing new stories. An additional boost Amazon now will miss out on. There is still a sliver of hope though. Even if Amazon may have passed on Conan, they don't own Conan. Pathfinder Media does, and it was them that Ryan Condal approached about making a Conan series, then they together approached Amazon. Unless Amazon somehow retained ownership of the scripts Condal wrote so far, which is doubtful, nothing prevents Pathfinder Media and Ryan Condal from shopping around the Conan series to another taker. I seriously hope they are hard at work on that right now as we speak, and that someone like Netflix or Hulu will give it a shot. Maybe even Disney. Conan might be a good fit for wherever they plan on putting the FX series like Rescue Me, The Shield and Sons of Anarchy, which they got along with the Fox package. That would certainly keep the Marvel connection. But, as of now, it would appear that no Conan series will be forthcoming anytime soon. We'll get a Conan spin-off though, in the shape of Red Sonja. Many seem to be confused by the relation between Conan and Red Sonja, so before we move on, let's clarify that. Robert E. Howard, the creator of Conan, also created the blueprint for Red Sonja, but not in the form we know her today. Red Sonja of Rogatine, that Sonja written with a Y, first appeared in the January 1934 issue of pulp magazine Magic Carpet, in the story Shadow of the Vulture. This story is not sword and sorcery, but historic fiction set in the 16th century during the Islamic incursions into Europe and the battle at the gates of Vienna. Red Sonja is a tall Russian warrior carrying a saber, a dagger, and 2 pistols. Red Sonja, that Sonja with a J, the one we know, first appeared in issue 23 of the Marvel comic book Conan the Barbarian back in 1973. Writer Roy Thomas needed another female foil for Conan, as the prolific ones in canon, Belit and Valeria, would not appear for years yet in the chronology. To this end, he rewrote Shadow of the Vulture as a Conan story and made Red Sonja a recurring character. Many years later, the Conan rights owners wanted to facilitate a Red Sonja movie, and to this end, a new corporate entity was created and the Red Sonja rights transferred to it. A Red Sonja movie was made back in 1985, starring Brigitte Nielsen and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger's character is meant to be Conan, but due to the aforementioned rights issues, he is called Calidor in the movie. Is that movie any good? Let's just say that if you haven't seen it already, I see absolutely no reason why you should do so now. Through various demergers and owner changes in the years since, Red Sonja and Conan are today owned by completely different companies. They both take place in the Hyborian Age, which the respective owners of both characters are legally allowed to use, but they cannot reference or meet one another unless that is separately agreed by the rights holders. Case in point, when Marvel get the comic book license to Conan back in 2019, they aren't getting Red Sonja. There have been more attempts at bringing Red Sonja to the screen since 1985. She appeared in the live-action Conan the Adventurer series back in 1997, and they tried to get a TV series off the ground in 1999, which was set to star Sable, though nothing came of that. Most famously though, Robert Rodriguez was set to direct a Red Sonja movie for Millennium back in 2009, set to star his then-girlfriend Rose McGowan. Nothing came of that either, though McGowan would go on to star as a witch in Millennium's 2011 Conan remake. According to Bleeding Cool, Bryan Singer was developing a Red Sonja TV series as of 2016, but again, nothing came of it, at least for the time. On April 4th of 2018, Deadline Hollywood reported that Ashley Miller, that would be the very same Ashley Miller from the 430 movie podcast, had been tapped to write Red Sonja for Millennium Pictures. Millennium would be the same company that made the 2011 Conan remake, and Millennium head honcho Avi Lerner placed story demands on that movie, which ensured it sucked to high heavens. The other producers and their conflicting notes didn't help matters either, more on that in a later video. But that was Conan, and being influenced by the Milius movie, Lerner had some very strong convictions, however wrong they might have been, on how the movie in his mind had to play out. For Red Sonja, there is no Milius movie which hijacked the public perception of the character, as the 1985 movie hardly left any fingerprint in popular culture at all. Instead, there is the image of a hot redhead clad only in a chainmail bikini, and this image in the public perception may work to the movie's advantage. Instead of the Millennium head honchos delivering a long list of destructive demands, like they did with Conan, they might settle for demands like, make it look like this, make it fill with action, make it hot, make sure we get the Wonder Woman audience, now go. If screenwriter Ashley Miller is working within relatively lax demands like those, then I have no doubt that he will be able to distill the best of Roy Thomas and the best of Gail Simone into a compelling movie. Then it would just need the right director. On September 17th, The Hollywood Reporter broke the scoop that Bryan Singer was in talks to direct Red Sonja for Millennium. Do note that he has, as of the making of this video, not yet formally signed on. Most recently, Bryan Singer got himself fired from the Queen biopic, and he is in hot water for living out his sexual preferences. which revolve around young men, some of whom aren't always of legal age or necessarily consenting. Because of this, the more established studios are somewhat reluctant about working with him right now, but not Millennium. The canon offshoot are not establishment. They don't care too much about political correctness, and they aren't all that reactive to outrage culture, so from their point of view, this gives them the opportunity to net a star director that otherwise might not have been within their reach. Given that Bryan Singer reportedly has worked on a Red Sonja TV series before, that Millennium reportedly will be paying him top dollar, and that he might not have too many other offers waiting, I'd be surprised if he turned the movie down. There will of course be backlash over Bryan Singer, amidst the allegations surrounding him, working on a movie such as Red Sonja. No doubt, many would rather have seen a female director be approached for the job, and if Singer does sign on, that is going to taint the movie's public perception from, well, right now I guess, all the way up until the movie's eventual release. For the movie itself though, if you take Singer's personal behavior out of the equation, the combination of Singer's direction and Miller's writing may work out pretty well. At least Red Sonja has a director in talks, which is more than what can be said for He-Man. On September 6th, toy manufacturer Mattel announced they were creating their own movie division to better capitalize on their dormant and underutilized brands which has Transformers-level potential on film. To this end, they've tapped Robbie Brenner, the Oscar-nominated producer behind Dallas Buyers Club, to oversee their movie division. The biggest priorities are He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and Barbie. Behind these news are the fact that Sony have given up the movie rights to both franchises and allowed them to revert back to Mattel. We've previously covered Sony's struggles with both properties here on Midnight's Edge. Now, after holding both movies up for more than half a decade, and after having paid tens of millions in retainer fees and development costs without anything to show for it, Sony has given up. Sony never had a workable take on Barbie, but where He-Man was concerned, literally a couple of the many filmmakers that have worked on it over the years actually had a very good take that would have been great for the brand. Sadly, Sony didn't recognize this, and instead went for the likes of McGee and most recently David Goyer. That they ultimately didn't proceed with Goyer's final take was probably for the better. This does however mean that it's back to the drawing board over at Mattel, who will have to set up the infrastructure to make movies, something they haven't done before. Unlike Marvel and Hasbro, they also haven't been involved with the process of making films and learned by doing before setting up their own shop. In other words, they will have to really rely on the skill and networks of Robbie Brenner, who will set up their movie division for them, and outside of Dallas Buyers Club, her past credits are really light on John Ruther, with AVPR being the one notable exception. So, will she have any luck setting up a movie division and getting He-Man off the ground? Will Bryan Singer end up directing Red Sonja, and will it be any good? Will Conan find a new home? Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments.
If you like this video, then please hit that subscribe button. Due to recent changes made by YouTube, we also encourage all of our subscribers, both new and old, to please hit that bell icon next to the subscribe button as well, so you will be notified when new videos are uploaded. Be sure to check back for news and analysis of the happenings and corporate politics behind the scenes of your favorite genre movies, as well as explorations of your favorite characters and their backgrounds and context here at Midnight's Edge.